Hi, JD. It's great to have you. Thank you for calling into our show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We're here with Father Richard. So
Yeah, good to see you.
good to see you. Any questions you had or concerns?
Okay, so a big topic that's kind of hit me in college. I'm doing a supplemental major in theology, so there's been a lot of learning and growing about understanding your faith. And one of those things is the difference between venial and mortal sins, and being clean for receiving the Eucharist. So we definitely want to receive the Eucharist, in humility. We say during the Mass, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should enter under my roof. I've only said. So you approach the altar with humility, but I've had definitely a kind of like a growing conscience towards, I really want to make sure, I'm clean for receiving this, because there are saints that talk about, you wouldn't want to condemn yourself in receiving the Eucharist while being unclean. But there's also a type of healing factor. So this is kind of broad, but just that whole mindset of approaching the Eucharist clean, but not oversessing and becoming, into religiosity, like, oh no, because we're all sinners, we sin every day. But making sure you're not approaching it with a mortal sin, and just going clean to, enjoy the Mass with a peaceful mindset.
Yeah, of course. And also, as you say, it's important to, first of all, regularly live in the state of grace, because it's a treasure we carry with us. Above all, to be able to be in the state of grace to receive communion. And the day of death, you want to be in the state of grace to be saved, So,
yeah, exactly.
So I think, of course, there's a very broad subject, of course, but some ideas here that can help a little bit, at least to make some leeway. So the first thing is that in order to commit a mortal sin, we always need 3 conditions, right? So the first one, that there has to be a grave matter. So the thing that I'm doing has to be serious, grave, right? A second thing, or condition, there has to be full knowledge of what you're doing, and that what you're doing is what you're doing. Exactly, that you're aware, conscious. Okay?
Right.
And the third one, there has to be a deliberate consent. So deliberate consent means, okay, I realize I'm doing something wrong. I have clear perception. This is something wrong. It's grave matter. I shouldn't be doing it. And your conscience tells you that, and you make a decision, and you say, well, I'm not going to do it then, or I'm going to try to oppose it. I'm going to reject this. I'm not going to consent. Or you say, no, I don't care. I'll do it anyway. And that's when we give our full deliberate consent. Without full deliberate consent, there is no mortal sin, because there may be grave matter, but what I didn't give it my full consent. So I think that's a first thing that many people don't have clear in order to see, have I committed a mortal sin? Have I fulfilled, if you want, these 3 conditions in my action?
Right. I would say also, so the Eucharist does forgive, venial sins, like you were saying. So we shouldn't be too scrupulous or picky about that. If we have venial sins, then we just say, I'm sorry, Lord, and I need you to heal me because I'm a sinner. And that's great. But if we have mortal sins, then we should go to confession, of course, um, before going to Holy Communion. And in general, all the commandments, right? The commandments and the capital sins, those are all areas of mortal sin, unless some of them allow for poverty of matter. And so that means that yes, to lie is a mortal sin in itself, but if it's a small lie, then it's venial, it's no mortal. Or to steal is bad in itself, but if you steal a small amount, it's still bad, but it's a venial sin, not a mortal sin, right?
Right.
So that's
right. And also, if you have doubts, because there's a lot of things that will come up and say, is this a mortal sin? Is this a grave matter? Is that a grave matter? So the best thing is go to confession. Go to confession frequently, twice a month, something like that, or once a month. And then if you have doubts, you ask the priest, Father, I did this. Is this a mortal sin? Is this something that I should be concerned about? And he will give you some clarity, So try to go to a priest and express this concern. And in many areas, as Father Richard said, there's there could be a mortal sin, but maybe it's not grave enough. It's not a grave matter. So it's very broad to pinpoint right here all those things that are grave matter. So let's say it's simple. If your conscience tells you this is serious, well, and it's well-formed conscience, then you have a perception there. It's a probably grave matter. And if you have a doubt, ask the priest in confession. Okay?
Right.
All righty. Very good. Well, thank you.
That's great.
That was a great question. And thank you very much for sharing your insights. And it's great to see you. And God bless you.
All right. You're welcome. And thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. God bless.